The sky was cloudy, and the rain poured heavily. A man and a woman walked together across a bridge. They stopped at the riverbank, where the water flowed rapidly, while continuously staring at it. The man said that the river in front of them was truly a man-eating river. The woman beside him, who called the man sensei, invited him to go together. The man smiled and agreed. With a red rope, they tied it to each of their hands. After tying the rope, the man told the woman, named Sachan, that from now on they would always be together forever. But unexpectedly, they were standing in the middle of the road, and suddenly a truck sped towards them. The lovers could do nothing, they just stood there silently and resigned. Then, a narrator's writing appeared, saying that today, a certain great author and his lover left this world. A light shone from a place that looked like a church. The man earlier was seen sleeping on the floor. He was still half conscious. Then he tried to sit up and look around. He now understood that this might be the world after they had died. It turned out that the place had a more Western style. Then there was a voice of a girl from afar, saying that this was not the world after death. She appeared behind the man earlier and said, "Welcome, adventurer." She introduced herself as Annette. The man was named Dazai Osamu, but because he was often called Sensei, as he was a writer, we will call him that. Annette then invited him to look out the window. It turned out they were in a very tall building, and a vast forest spread out in front of them, with dragons flying in the air. Annette said that Sensei was chosen and teleported to a land covered in darkness, Zauberberg. Sensei was chosen to become a hero who would illuminate that world. Sensei thought that meant he had failed to commit double suicide and entered that strange world. Sensei then held his head, feeling dizzy and regretting his very embarrassing life. But it seemed Annette did not listen to Sensei. She turned around and said that Sensei had a mission, which was… Before she could finish her sentence, Annette saw a glass bottle containing tranquilizers rolling. Of course, she was shocked, and it turned out Sensei was already lying down, having just swallowed a lot of tranquilizers. Without thinking twice, Annette immediately used her magic, Purifying Light, Detoxify, on Sensei. Instantly, Sensei woke up and opened his eyes. He then said that Annette did not need to do that, because it only disturbed him. Of course, Annette was angry. She did not understand what Sensei was thinking. She asked Sensei to get up and complete the great mission to save that world as a hero. While picking up the tranquilizers that fell on the floor, Sensei said that he did not care about what was called a mission because he was just looking for a place to die. Indifferently, Sensei ate the tranquilizers on the floor one by one. Of course, Annette was very angry and yelled at him to stop. Annette still did not know why Sensei was like that, even though he was the chosen one. Then Sensei replied that he did not ask to be chosen. Annette then asked, "Didn't Sensei get hit by a truck?" Sensei tried to remember, and he agreed. Annette then said that the truck that brought Sensei there was the Otherworld selection truck. Annette explained that among the many people in Sensei's original world who lived unhappy lives, only those who got hit by that truck could relive their lives. It was the World Transfer Service that had been provided. If the truck was directed at Sensei, it was proof that his life in his original world was unhappy. However, Sensei was given the chance to leave his old life to live in a new world. Hearing the explanation, Sensei then stood up and walked towards Annette. He brought his face closer to hers and said that the truck had interrupted the happiest moment of his life, which was a double suicide. Annette was very shocked to hear that. In her heart, Annette said she couldn't believe what she had just heard. It was clear that Sensei was saved from his unhappy life and he chose to commit suicide. But it didn't seem to matter because Annette was sure that Sensei would change his mind after he saw his stats. Every human brought to that world was given superhuman powers without exception. But how shocked Annette was when she saw Sensei's stats. His stats looked very weak. He was also poisoned, even after Annette had detoxified him. Annette was very worried, wondering if he would die. She still couldn't believe there was a human that weak. She still hoped for a special skill or exceptional ability. When Annette opened all the stat windows available, She found nothing. It turned out to be true. Sensei was very weak. She had never met an otherworlder that weak before. Very casually, Sensei got up from his seat and just walked away. Annette did not let him go. She ran and grabbed Sensei's hand. Annette apologized, saying maybe it was indeed a mistake to have brought Sensei to that world. Annette also said that Sensei did not have the ability to live in that world and did not deserve to live there. Sensei just smiled and said that this was the life he wanted. But Sensei was always branded a failure in any world he was in. Annette felt sorry to hear that, and she asked Sensei to stay in that place for a while because Sensei's condition was very weak. He could be killed by monsters immediately if he left that place. Sensei thanked Annette for her concern, but declined the offer because, in truth, he was just looking for a place to die. Sensei then walked away. Annette watched Sensei leave, but her heart was pounding. Inside, she said that Sensei was different from the others. Annette remembered her past, where she was very proud to guide reincarnations. She was very happy to meet reincarnations from another world. But she had met some annoying people. And over time, she closed her heart and became a woman who only praised heroes. That was what was on her mind all this time. Annette couldn't let Sensei go. She called out to him and ran after him, saying that at the very least, before leaving, he should take a profession. Sensei just turned slightly and said that he was born a writer. No more and no less. Sensei said goodbye and bid farewell to Annette, the woman with the beautiful ears. Annette could only be resigned and watch Sensei go. In her heart, she just realized that she had been waiting for Sensei to come to her for a long time. Sensei, who had already left the place, had reached a vast grassland. He found a signpost there, but he couldn't read it at all. And suddenly a voice whispered directly into his head. Landmark Great Plains of Ersten discovered. 5 experience points gained. Sensei, hearing that voice, felt very annoyed, but he didn't know how to stop it. He felt very tormented because he indeed suffered from migraines. Notification sounds kept popping up, making Sensei frustrated. And suddenly, there was a voice shouting. When he turned around, there was also a tree falling there. It turned out that a cat-eared girl was being entangled by a monster called the Death Tree. The girl was asking Sensei for help because the monster could kill her. Sensei just looked at her with a blank stare and a pale face. He thought to himself that he had been meeting a lot of people with strange ears today. However, deep down, Sensei found that a girl on the verge of death looked very beautiful. The girl kept asking for help, but Sensei did not respond at all. Instead, he asked the girl if he could write a novel about her. Of course, the girl was shocked and annoyed, and with a bit of a shout, she asked for help again from Sensei. Sensei then realized that the girl wanted to be rescued. He asked her to wait a moment and then reached out his hand towards her while taking a small jump. Sensei then chuckled and casually said that he couldn't reach her. The girl was naturally very confused by his behavior. She thought Sensei had magic or a sword. Then, very quickly, the monster extended its branch, ensnaring Sensei's neck, pulling him up and leaving him hanging. Sensei said that he couldn't breathe. The girl became furious, calling Sensei useless. Sensei, unfazed, calmly said that their lives wouldn't last much longer. The girl explained that the Death Tree had a skill called suction. The monster would absorb the life energy from its captured prey, and they might die in a few more minutes. Hearing this, Sensei actually said that it was good news. Naturally, the girl was confused. Sensei looked resigned, his life energy visibly starting to be drained by the Death Tree. He then appeared weak and finally collapsed helplessly. The cat-eared girl eventually resigned herself to the odd end of her life. But suddenly, there was a tremendous shake. Looking back, she saw the Death Tree changing color to a darker shade, and then its trunk cracked. This caused her and Sensei to be thrown to the ground, freeing them. She looked back again and saw the Death Tree dead and slowly disappearing. Sensei, nearby, then said that once again, he had failed to die. In Sensei's head, a notification sound appeared again, saying he had defeated the Death Tree with his poison. dealing 300 damage. The cat-eared girl could only be amazed by what had just happened. In her heart, she thought that Sensei had allowed himself to be killed so that his enemy would absorb the poison from him. Had he let the death tree kill itself by absorbing poison instead of his life energy? Now, Sensei had reached level 3, and as usual, he was very annoyed with the notification sound in his head. The cat-eared girl then stood up, approached him, and praised him, saying that Sensei was actually strong, but pretended to be weak. Sensei just sat there and lit a cigarette. He mumbled that this kind of thing kept happening. He wanted to die, but it was himself who survived. It had been like that all the time. Sensei admitted that he had tried to die 5 times and never succeeded. The cat-eared girl felt sad hearing this, but she was also grateful to Sensei for saving her life. She then had an idea to invite Sensei to her home as a thank you gesture. The girl reached out her hand to Sensei and held his hand. At that moment, Sensei remembered Sa-chan. Sensei then thought that she might have also come to that world. Sensei kept calling out the name Sa-chan. The cat-eared girl thought Sensei was calling her by that name. She tried to introduce herself, but Sensei kept calling her Sa-chan, which made her very annoyed. Sensei started walking while smiling, now knowing his purpose in that world. It was to find Sa-chan and commit double suicide. Meanwhile, Annette was praying to the gods to protect Sensei and to reunite them one day. When she finished praying, suddenly the door opened, and Sensei was there, greeting her. Of course, Annette was very happy. She stood up and ran towards Sensei, but she stopped when she saw a cat-eared girl standing next to him. Sensei then said that he wanted to ask Annette something. He was looking for a woman named Sa-chan and wondered if Annette knew where she was. Hearing that, Annette was deeply shocked. She couldn't believe that Sensei had already met many women in such a short time in that world. Time passed, and Sensei and the cat-eared girl were walking in a grassy field. It turned out Annette did not know about Sa-chan's whereabouts. The girl said that her home was still far away, so she planned to take Sensei to the castle town of Roth first. She then held Sensei's hand and pulled him along. But suddenly, someone hit her hand with a stick, startling her. It turned out to be Annette, who said that holding hands with the opposite sex in public was embarrassing. Of course, the cat-eared girl was very angry and didn't understand why Annette suddenly approached them. Annette couldn't answer. She just glanced at Sensei. The cat-eared girl then said it must be because Annette was in love with Sensei. Annette, of course, denied this, explaining that as a clergy person, she had a responsibility to protect weak otherworlders. The cat-eared girl just found out that Sensei was an otherworlder, but she also understood because she saw that Sensei was very strong. Annette, of course, protested because she knew Sensei was not strong. That's why she wanted to accompany him. The cat-eared girl then said that Sensei had defeated the death tree with one attack and saved her life. Annette was immediately shocked because it turned out their relationship was already that close. Annette looked depressed, and a dark aura emanated from her body. Shortly after, Sensei found a coffin nearby. He thought it was a comfortable place for him to rest because he felt dizzy and tired since arriving in that world. Sensei then entered the coffin and lay down inside it. He asked to be woken up when they reached the city. Sensei said goodnight to Annette and Tama. The cat-eared girl was, of course, angry because her name was not Tama. She tried to say her name, but failed again because Sensei had already closed the coffin. Annette smiled happily because Sensei had called her name correctly. Annette then pulled the coffin, intending to take it to the city. It was dusk, and elsewhere, a woman was standing, gazing at the sunset. Who was that woman? Was she Sa-chan, the one Sensei was looking for?